Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Panwoven TV and welcome to this, Meadows Revisited. This is a video in which I'm going to go over and review a film that I made a couple of months ago, about 3 months ago actually. And I'm going to just address some extra issues in it, make some corrections, and give you some additional information which I think are omitted from the original film. Now, obviously the film is a long one. It's actually about 7 hours long, split more or less into equal parts. And I think it's a very good film. I think it's a real. I wanted it to be really good, and it was, because it was unusual for me, because this was a reportage of a conference that I went to. It was actually a really good conference, and I wanted it to be I wanted it to be a good movie and a good reportage of that conference. It's also the first time I went to the United States, which is it's a big sort of major moment in my life, a major ambition. First time I went to Area 51 and a little alien, and of course also it was part of what I thought last year, 2023, which is a very exciting year in many ways, very important year, and in fact in almost all ways I can think of, with everything going on the UFO scene, and of course my own me sort of really breaking out into new grounds. It's not only the first time I went to the United States, it's the first time I went to the Isle of Man. And I made some really, really good reportages for those as well. So I wanted to do this again. I wanted to go through this again. This is and maybe just like address some extra points, things I left out of the original video, which I want to put into this one. And so here I am with the backgrounds. You can see his older. It's Colin. I thought I chose Colin. It's Colin on the monorail, looking wistfully out at the Las Vegas horizon. You can see there. So I thought that'd be a good background to this. And well, you see, it was quite something, the conference and everything, and the places I went to. And I remember Steve Bassett said to me, because I saw Steve Bassett there, and I told him I was going to meet him there. And he says, "You've been to the United States before?" And I says, "No." He says, "You've never been to the United States, and your first stop is Las Vegas? Talk about jumping in the deep end." And that's true. And I should point out that, as you know, I didn't feel at home in Las Vegas as a place in the city. I didn't feel at home there. I didn't feel it was right for me. At the same time, of course, I would never judge an entire country by just one city, let alone a federation, which is what the US is. So I wouldn't even judge all of Nevada by just Las Vegas. Las Vegas is a particular place with a particular kind of culture associated with it. But there were some things I did, despite everything I achieved on that mission, there's a lot of things I didn't do. I said those Amerindian shamans who did the drumming and the prayers and the poetry. Do you remember me telling you about how each day was started off by the shamans doing this drumming and prayer session, reading some poetry in their own language and things like that? I really enjoyed that. I really sort of I didn't expect to really stay. I didn't expect to stay for all of that. I sort of expected to maybe stay for 5 minutes and then leave, get a bit of the energy, then go. But I stayed for the whole of those sessions. I really, really enjoyed them. And one thing I was going to do, I was going to hopefully find the time to talk to one of those guys and ask him about the Nevada Giants. Now, when I say Nevada Giants, that's not the name of a baseball team. The Nevada Giants are something else indeed. Now, this is something I was looking into. I didn't really look into it, I didn't go into it in enough detail in Meadows. This is something called the Sitika or Saai. Now, these are creatures from the Paiute oral history, and this is an Indian tribe from the area, from the sort of area we're talking about here. And now this is a legend. There's a legend which I've mentioned before. I did mention it, that there is a race in the area, in the desert areas of Nevada and California. There lives a tribe of giants. These are described as roughly twice the size of a grown man, so we're talking 12 feet tall. They're said to be red-haired, and they're cannibalistic in the sense that if you include them as the same species as us, because they hunt humans for food. I mean, this is something that scared the Peyotes and the Shoshones an awful lot, because if they went out alone, sometimes they'd be attacked by one of these giants and they'd be carried off, they'd be killed and eaten. Now, there was a place called Lovelock Cave where there actually was well, there's been several mummified and skeletal remains of humans dating back between 5 and 6 thousand years. Now, some of them are described. I mean, of all of them that have been published, there is one 6'6" in height. So that was quite a large person. That's quite a large man. There's a man who's 6'6". And there's someone called Adrian Mayer who writes Fossil Legends of the First Americas, who suggests that the giant interpretation in the mythology was caused by the fact that there were some very tall people. And some of them were naturally very tall. 6'6" doesn't make you a giant. It makes you very tall. It makes you a tall, natural human, not a giant. And she thought that this was basically something invented by people trying to set up tourists, trying to attract tourists and, mythology tourists, which of course is, I suppose, is a kind of there's a bit of a dollar on that. I mean, it's always good for business, even going back to people faking Marian apparitions and things like that. I think there were genuine Marian apparitions at Lourdes, Medjugorje, and places like that, but some of them I think might have been faked. But there were lots of bones in this cave, and there was lots of there was tools and other utensils that these people used in Lovelock Cave, and there was also a duck decoy, because it was pretty clear they were hunters, and they actually built a duck decoy, which was pretty cool. I'll show you the duck decoy. Here it is. So modern hunters use these. They put these, let these float on water, and the ducks will see them and come down and think there's lots of food there for them. And then the hunters will come out. Today it will be with shotguns, and in those days it will be with bows and arrows, and grab their prey. That's the duck decoy. And there's a lot more here on this Wikipedia page about Lovelock Cave. Here's some of the utensils that they use, the other utensils, tools. And there's arrowheads there, bits of basket, and here says that there's a necklace there, you see, and an ancient stone smoking pipe, effigy of a rat, stone sinkers that be used for fishing, and things like that. Interesting, that, isn't it? So that's however, you may think, well, that explains it all, then, doesn't it? That explains that all you need to know is that there was a legend of very tall people in the area, which the Amerindians must have exaggerated to make them into 12-foot tall giants, when they were only like 6 foot something, maybe taller than the surrounding population naturally. And that explains the entire mystery. And that is until certain bones were found. These were found in the Grand Canyon as well, because I was speaking to someone who'd actually been to that area, and they knew about the legends of the Grand Canyon. Interestingly, there were also dead bodies, human bodies, which there were also human bodies as well, who had strange chemicals inside them, which indicated they had a European diet, which indicates they were immigrants. There we are. And then this was found. I'm just showing you this. There we go. Now that is a skull that was found in one of these places. I think it was the Grand Canyon or Lovelock Cave. There's a coin beside it. You can see that is very, very big. I don't know exactly how big it is. You can't tell. I don't know exactly what coin that is, as you know. But as you know from when I went through all the different American coins, I mean, that could easily just be a penny, or it could be a quarter, or it could be a dollar or something. I don't know. But you see, it could be any of those things. But you're clearly seeing something. I mean, there's other sources that say that this skull is of someone about 12 feet tall. So it's a humanoid, but is about 12 feet tall. And this matches other legends. I mean, there's see, that particular photograph, I believe, was taken in the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., in one of the secret vaults there. Because they've actually been, a lot of stuff was taken out of Lovelock Cave, and it's never been published. It's been covered up. For all I know, maybe the giants are still living in that area in remote parts. And there's rumors that living giants still exist in some parts of the Solomon Islands. There's that book by, what's his name, Boyajian. Not Boyajian, what's his name? Boyarian. This is incredible. And there it is, Solomon Island Mysteries. And it says Accounts of Giants and UFOs in the Solomon Islands by Marius Boyaran, however you pronounce that name. This actually looks very, look, £748. Bloody heck. This was advertised very, very much on Nexus magazine. This was see, there's a little bit of an endorsement there from Duncan Rhodes, editor of Nexus magazine. This was very much endorsed, but I'm not paying 749 quid for it. So there's legends of giants still are alive today. Now, there was some graves dating back, I think, about 10,000 years, found in Iraq recently. And these were found by an archaeologist called Muhammad Ali. I remember that because he's got the same name as the boxer. And these were of a dozen odd people who were about 10 feet tall. And they had clothing and utensils and tools to match. These were at 10 feet tall. Now, this would make them about a foot taller than Robert P. Wadlow. Robert P. Wadlow is the tallest officially recorded man on Earth. He was like, I think he was 8'11", so he's just an inch short of 9 feet tall. Now this is the officially tallest guy on Earth, but you know, if you go to the Guinness Book of Records, there we are, Robert P. Wadlow. He's this chap here, big tall fella he was too. Look at that, there he is. Look at the size of him. What a monster! He was 8'11". He was always tall ever since he was a little kid, and he grew to be enormous like that. 8'11" tall. There he is. God, look at him. Yeah, I think he was young when I think he was only about 21 when he died. I think he was yeah, he was he was abnormal, you see. I mean, he wasn't naturally that tall. He had some kind of issue. Let me just find the details of his life. Yeah. Died July 15th, 1940, known as the Alton Giant, or the Giant of Illinois. And he had something called hypertrophy because of his pituitary gland, which was an abnormally high level of HGH, the human growth hormones. Yeah, died age 22. He was also called the Gentleman Giant, the Gentle Giant. He was rumored to be a very, very nice guy. Very sad, that. Very sad. Yeah. But he was abnormal. Now, these giants are different because the giants we're talking about are naturally that big. It's not an abnormality. It's nothing wrong with their pituitary hormones. They are naturally that size, and they live in that area. One thing I regret about Meadows is I was looking for a chance to get to talk to one of those shamans, and I didn't. So I'm not like, I mean, Nevada shamans are not likely to be in Oxford. There are probably no Shoshone elders living in Oxford, so I probably won't get the chance to talk to them unless I go back there. Or I could reach out to one of them online and just ask them about it. But if you want information about the giants we're talking about here, it's all over the place. I mean, there's loads of them. Another thing I noticed that went wrong with Meadows was that during the scene where I show you the photos I took at the Atomic Museum, I realized that the quality wasn't very good because I had like the LCD monitor of the of the laptop, which of course I should realize you look at it from a certain angle, you can't see it properly. And I was actually looking at it from an angle where I could see it properly, but I had the camera sort of at chest level propped up on something, pointing it at the monitor screen. As a result, you didn't actually get to see the photos very well in very, very good quality. So I thought I'd show you those photos again. Now, this here is the Nucleon. Now, this car is a nuclear-powered car, and the front half of the car looks quite normal. There's the bit at the front where the engine would normally be. It's actually the boot. That's where they put the luggage. And there's the bit with the windows where everyone sits, and there's the seats. Now, at the back, believe it or not, that is a nuclear reactor. They've actually got a nuclear reactor at the back of this car. Yeah, and I think this is very interesting, that Nucleon, because the Nucleon was designed in the early 1950s, at the early history of nuclear power. And it was designed and never built. Luckily, it was never built. But people seriously believed you could have a nuclear-powered car. People were talking about nuclear-powered everything in the beginnings. I mean, there was plans for nuclear power of all kinds of cars, motorbikes, houses. Everyone was going to have a nuclear reactor in their garden shed that would power the house, things like that. All kinds of ridiculous things like that. It was never seriously considered, except, for example, necessities that would be submarines to allow a submarine to stay underwater for a very long time. And okay, there were nuclear power plants as well, but they were centralized on the national grid. They were never, people weren't allowed to have their own in their back garden or in their cellar or anything like that. And it's interesting that there was that attitude in the early 50s when it was seriously considered, this when nuclear power first began to be popular. There was this optimism, this positivity towards nuclear power that didn't last very long. And it was, I think, what ruined it. I mean, they were talking about nuclear rockets, aircraft. I'll show you some more, actually. I'll show you more about the nuclear rockets and aircraft in a minute. Stanton Friedman worked on that before he got into UFOs. But there was this amazing kind of like naivety associated with nuclear power, which you don't see today, because people didn't realize, for example, the problems of uranium availability, but more importantly, the safety of nuclear fission. I think you've seen with accidents like Chernobyl and Fukushima, you've seen very clearly that it's utterly reckless to use nuclear fission reactors widely in society. I mean, they are used centrally in very, very carefully controlled environments in power stations with special facilities in case something goes wrong. Because when something goes wrong, it's literally a catastrophe beyond measure. I mean, it's the area around Fukushima it may be thousands of years before people can live there again. Things like that. It's like incredible. We'll be saying a little bit more about radiation and nuclear waste in a minute, because there's something else I wanted to bring up later. But that was it. That was the kind of the Nucleon car. I thought that was quite amusing. In a way, I wish one of those had been built. And now we come to this image. This is a photo taken in Las Vegas, and there's the famous Golden Nugget Casino. Now, I never actually got to the Golden Nugget. It's actually in another part of the city, which we didn't have time to go to. It's about an hour's walk away from, I think, where we were. But that's the Golden Nugget Gambling Hall. That's one of the most famous casinos. And in the background, you can see quite clearly a mushroom cloud. There was a mushroom cloud visible above Las Vegas. And it seems incredible when you think about it, but believe it or not, when the nuclear tests began on the Nevada test site, people were literally, again, I don't think people really quite understood how devastating they would be to the environment and human health. And they had these surface tests. They were doing these open air tests, which were banned later on. And for a decade or so, they were just letting off nukes all over the place. And that area, actually, the Nevada test site, is the most nuked place on Earth. In fact, almost half of the nuclear explosions ever detonated in the entire world were detonated in that area. And of course, it's still not safe. Some areas are not safe to go into even to this day. And I don't know what effect this had on the health of the people in Las Vegas, whether there was ever any measurements done of various health problems and things like that took place in Las Vegas that the people suffered from in that era. I don't know. And now this is this. Oh my God. This is Project Gas Buggy. This is to certify that there was somebody participating in Project Gas Buggy, the first nuclear detonation for industrial application, December the 10th, 1967. Oh my God. Well, luckily, this was an underground test. Now, you may have heard about this. You may have heard about it if you've seen Nick Cook's documentaries about UFOs, which are not very good. And you may have heard about Gabe Valdez's nonsense about, Project Gas Buggies, why they did the mutilations. It's all humans, and then they're leaving the bodies for us all to find just to laugh at us and all that kind of crap. What is Project Gas Buggy is actually a very extreme form of fracking, in which instead of conventional explosives that are put down a hole and detonated, they use nuclear explosives. And if you've ever seen Ian R. Crane's talk about, voices from the gas fields and split estate, and the fact that the chemicals and things coming up from the ground to force people out of their homes, just imagine if they had used real nuclear weapons under people's homes. Just imagine what would have happened. But yeah, it's incredible they were actually thinking about this back in those days. Right. Now this, I'll just show it to you. This is the nuclear rocket. This is the Phoebus reactor test engines. Now, I'm not sure exactly how this works, what kind of, well, the fuel I suppose it used was nuclear, but how it worked, I'm not sure. Did they use the air or something? I'm not sure. But there's the nozzle and there's the bottom bit. I mean, I had to take 2 photos of this to get it all in. But yeah, that's nuclear powered rocket. Don't know what that would happen if that had ever been used, but I remember one of the Tintin books. There's a Tintin book where he goes to the moon, and in this Tintin book, the rocket is nuclear powered. I remember. I thought that was very interesting. And here we have Dirty Harry. Now, Dirty Harry in this case is not a very quotable crime thriller with Clint Eastwood. In this case, Dirty Harry refers to this 1953 32 kiloton surface nuclear test. The fallout progressed between Alamo and Glendale, Nevada, as predicted. Roadblocks were put in place. Habitants had to be moved away from the fallout path. Surface winds from northern Arizona blew airborne debris further north than expected. When radiation levels in St. George started to rise higher than anticipated, the sheriff was notified, advising to order the 4,500 residents to stay indoors for 2 hours. The radiation monitor station there helped direct the residents indoors. I mean, this is what led to the test ban in the end. This led to the actual test ban. But this is, God knows, like I said, this may have caused cancers and things like cancer rates to rise in that area. Apparently, the radiation spread as far north as Canada, making it a kind of international incident as well. But it was actually just like it went on for another 10 years, but then it was ordered in the early 60s. It was ordered to be stopped. This is when they started doing the underground tests, which I talked about in the film. And then, of course, this is the map of the Nevada test site. This is all the Department of Energy areas you can see here. Nevada test sites, Nellis bombing range, and there's all this area of the Nellis bombing range. This is huge there. Las Vegas is right down here in the bottom where we were. And this is an enormous area. It's about the size of Switzerland. And there is Area 51. You can just see Area 51 there in the middle, right in the heart of it all. So that's that map there, which I thought was very interesting. I mean, she showed you a little bit of a lot of it's not actually marked. It's all just, a lot of it's just blank, and they don't show you what's there because it's all secret, like Area 51. Definitely. And then, of course, we have the gift shop. Now, the gift shop was quite amusing. There we go. Now, what's interesting when they see there's this alien T-shirt. What's interesting about the gift shop is that there's nothing else in that Atomic Museum specifically about the Area 51 mythology. There was an Area 51 exhibition, and if you remember, I mean, you have to watch the alt-tech version of Part 1 of Meadows, but I showed you the documentary. I'll say more about that in a minute. The documentary, Conspiracy Theory Road Trip UFOs, in which the what I call them, contestants, victims, mugs, I don't know what you call them. But anyway, they were taken to visit the museum. They were taken to the Atomic Museum and shown the Area 51 exhibition. Annie Jacobson was there. Now, the Area 51 exhibition is now gone, as I showed you when I was there. As I explained when I was there, I was hoping to see it. It wasn't there. Annie Jacobson, who was the curator of that exhibition, was not present. But apart from that, there's nothing at the Atomic Museum specifically about the alien-type Area 51 mythology. Yet the gift shop is full of souvenirs with that theme. There's an alien T-shirt there, you see, Area 51 hat, warning Area 51 no trespassing. It's everywhere. UFO crash site, Area 51 mouse mats and UFO crash sites. There's the Area 51 number plates there you got. UFO crash site, see the restricted area? Look at it, it's incredible. What happens in Area 51 stays in Area 51. That's a child-sized T-shirt there. That's good. And it says Atomic Museum at the bottom there. There we go. It's another one, Atomic Museum. This is a UFO levitating a cow. It's usually for mutilation. And I've been exposed. Atomic Museum. So there's no doubt they're used to people like me who go to this location. We go there for the purposes of our interest in UFOs and aliens in Area 51. There's loads more there. It was full of this kind of merchandise. And this is the Apollo murders by Chris Hadfield. That's interesting because Chris Hadfield was an astronaut. He was actually a Canadian who was commander of one of the missions on the International Space Station. The Apollo murders. I wonder what that's about. It's a novel. Now I wonder if it's meant to be like it's kind of connected to reality, like my Roswell Rising book was and its sequels. In which case, I wonder what it's about. I'll have to talk to the detectives about that. And this, of course, is Annie Jacobson's book, Area 51, An Uncensored History of America's Top Secret Military Base. Now, I thought about picking one of those up, but it's like $30. I mean, I can get it probably much cheaper now. If I want to read it, I'll get it much cheaper from Amazon, but it is available there. Maybe I didn't know if it was signed, but she was there. Actually, she was the curator of this exhibition. She might have signed a few copies, but I don't know. I'm not bothered by that. So those are those. I'm sorry I didn't get to show you those pictures properly. It was my own fault. The fact that I didn't edit. There's nothing I could. I mean, I could have inserted. To be honest, I could have inserted the images I just showed you into the original Meadows movie, but I couldn't be bothered. I was in a rush because I had other things to do and I needed to get it uploaded and things like that. So, but anyway, now you've seen them properly. You've seen them properly, so you can be happy now, can't you? Right, now, another thing I wanted to talk about. When I was on the plane, of course, I was very, very lucky on the plane because we were traveling with somebody as part of our mission who works for an airline. He managed to, because it's, if you do that, you get certain privilege. Not only very cheap flight, but if there were any free posh seats, you get to sit in the first class area. And we did. We sat in the first class seating area it's called Club World for British Airways. And I showed you how posh the cubicles were and everything. And you get this little like TV set which shows all these movies and things like that. Now they've been around for a while. In fact, when I flew to Australia in 2000, they had like little ones in the back of your seat. In front of you, there'd be a little screen. But they could become a lot more sophisticated. They have a lot more. You get a lot more choice. You get to pause things. You never used to be able to pause things on those old seat back screens. Now, apparently, if you fly with the economy seats, you also get those TV screens, but then they're not as nice. They're smaller and they're in the back of the seat in front of you. And so if someone reclines, you sort of gets in your face and stuff like that. So we had like this big like widescreen TV in front of us in these posh seats. It was very, very nice. I brought books to read with me, but I hardly touched them because I didn't really need to read them because I didn't read them because basically these things kept me entertained. And I saw some films. There were some good films on there. Some of them I'd seen before, and some I'd seen before, and others I hadn't. And so I thought I'd take you through some of them, do a little review of them, of the films that were actually available. So there was two that I'd seen. There was one that I'd seen before, and the others I hadn't seen before. But the first one is The Prestige. Now, this is really good. This is a film by Christopher Nolan. Now, I find this with a lot of directors, a lot of film directors, great, very, very prestigious film directors. They always do that. There's always the one film that they do which everyone forgets. With all the great movies they make that are really famous, there's always one that's kind of obscure. For example, with M. Night Shyamalan, it's Lady in the Water. That's the one film he did which not many, had terrible reviews and it was panned and hardly anyone watched it. I actually think it's really good, and I've said before I think it's underrated. But generally, the fans and the critics don't like it, and it's been sort of forgotten. This is the equivalent with Christopher Nolan. It's called The Prestige. Christopher Nolan, of course, has made lots and lots of very famous films, like Inception, etc. But this is one that not many people know about. It's a rather obscure movie. Now, I don't know I never read the reviews of this, but it's bloody good. I think it's really great. It's got Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale play these two magicians. It's set in 19th century London. And Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman, they play these magicians who are these stage conjurers who are locked in a bitter rivalry. And they're desperately trying to outdo the other in terms of how good their tricks are. And Michael Caine plays the Hugh Jackman character's manager, and it's got Scarlett Johansson as well. She's in, and David Bowie is in it. Now, David Bowie, he's obviously a singer-songwriter. He's not normally an actor, but he is in this one. He has acted in a few movies, and in this one, he plays Nikola Tesla. It's very interesting. It's sort of set in the 1890s when Tesla was at his peak. And it's actually a really that's a bloody good film. That really is. Now I can't say the same for Revolutionary Road, and this is Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. Yeah, this is a domestic bliss drama, and I think it's extremely depressing. It's about this couple who, well, how can I sum it up? Basically, there's a couple that get married. There's this two young people fall in love, get married, and then they fall into alcoholism and depression, and then eventually the wife kills herself. I mean, that's kind of a complete. That's a summary of the film. I mean, it's not much fun, that is it? But that's basically what it's about. It's basically about that. It's literally just that. Now, this is much better. And that's funny enough. Like Mark and Colin actually recommended this to me because they've seen it. I mean, I think they travel a lot more than me, and I think they might have seen this on the seatback phones, the seatback phones, not the seatback phone, the seatback TV screens before. This is Asteroid City. Now, this is it says a screenplay by Wes Anderson, story by Wes Anderson and Roman Coppola, who I think may be related to Francis Ford Coppola. I don't know, the guy who made Apocalypse Now. Now, this is a really surreal, sort of almost comic-like in style. It's partly animated. It's very Tim Burton, actually. It's in the style of Tim Burton, although Tim Burton has nothing to do with it. But it's very like him, and it's about well, it's hard to know what it's about. It's about this little town in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a desert somewhere, and it's called Asteroid City, and there's a crater there, meteor crater, and it's set in the sort of western United States, in the desert areas of the western US, which is where, of course, we went, and it's about these people, and they all wear sort of pastel colored clothes. Like I say, it's all very sort of cartoonish. And there's some animated scenes. An alien basically comes down, and it's very, very weird in a sort of Tim Burton-like way. But I liked it. I thought it was quite good. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Now I've not seen this before. This is incredible. I've seen all the other. Well, I haven't seen all the Indiana Jones films because I've deliberately avoided the new woke one. But I've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom. And of course, the Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls, I thought that was very good. That was not a lot of people don't like that, but I really thought that was good. I'd never seen this one. This was like the last of the original trilogy, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And here you have Harrison Ford and there's Sean Connery playing his father, playing Indy's dad. And it is, what can I say about it? It's kind of what I'd expect it to be. It's in the style of all the others. It is kind of like and basically, I thought Sean Connery as Indy's dad was actually very good. I thought he was very good. And it's really, when I watched it, I thought this film came out like when I was a kid, and somehow I've just kind of never seen it. It's just weird. I've never seen it. And it has like frills and spills, stunts, and there's this underground base with the Nazis in it. I mean, you cannot have a good Indiana Jones movie without the underground Nazis. I mean, you've got to have the underground Nazis in most of these films, in these types of films. So yeah, it was complete with underground Nazis. Yeah, the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, very much recommended. And then finally, this is the best film I saw on. This is the best film I saw on the plane. Jules. Now, I don't know how many of you've seen this before. It's very like E.T., the film E.T. It says it's Close Encounters of the Lonely Kind is the subtitle. Now, the difference between E.T. and this is that E.T. is about aliens that land and interact with children. This is about an alien that lands in a community, in a small community, and he interacts with the elders of that community. The story basically is there's this village in which this man, Ben Kingsley, he's played by Ben Kingsley, this guy there in the middle. He just lives on his own. He's a widow, or his wife's divorced him or something. I think they had, if I remember rightly, she left him, and he's living on his own in this house. And he has his neighbours, these ladies who are his neighbours, and a flying saucer lands in his garden, and he reports it to the local council at the council meeting, and they don't believe him. And this is the alien here, and they call him Jules, and it's a charming. It's quite exciting. It's quite charming. Like I say, very like E.T. Not as emotional as E.T. It's not weepy like E.T. is. Well, it is maybe a little bit, but it's not like very emotional like E.T. is. But that was a good film, I thought. Ben Kingsley, of course, he's a very versatile actor. I think Gandhi is his best known role. But he's been in loads of things, and he plays a good bad guy too. You wouldn't believe it. But Ben Kingsley he was getting a film. It's not a very well known film, but I think it's a very good film called Trans-Siberian, where he plays this Russian policeman on the Trans-Siberian Express, and he's a really good villain, and he's really evil, and he's really cool. He's a really cool bad guy, and he does this speech about this. He says this American guy. There's this very naive American couple who are on the train with him, and he says. Yeah, they say, hey, I bet you're pleased the Soviet Union's gone now. This was made in the 90s, not long after the Soviet collapse. And he says, the Soviet Union, yes. In those days, we were living in the dark, but now we are dying in the light. Very, very good, very good actor, brilliant character actor, Ben Kingsley. And yeah, my grandmother went on a date with him once, yeah, because he came to the cinema where she was working, yeah, with my mum. My mum never saw him, but she did. Yeah, so that's that done with. Now, another thing I wanted to bring up another subject I wanted to raise on this little review of Meadows is to do with Randall Carlson. I don't know how many of you saw Randall Carlson's talk. Those of you who were at the conference, but I think it was one of the best talks there. Now, there's a few things there's other things I've got to look up because I want to go to where, because he said there's this free energy thing in London which I want to go to, and I'll do a future video about that. But one of the things he talked about was Göbekli Tepe. Now Göbekli Tepe is very interesting because it's this amazing location of there's these monoliths, these stone monoliths, not unlike Stonehenge, but it's actually far older than Stonehenge. Stonehenge is roughly from the 3rd to the 4th millennium BC, like Avebury. Göbekli Tepe, I think, dates back to the 8th or 9th millennium. Let's just have a look. Göbekli, see, Neolithic, yes. It is a Neolithic archaeological site inhabited roughly between 9,500 and 8,000 BC. So it's far older. It's far older than Stonehenge. It's more than twice as old as Stonehenge and the pyramids. And when it's created, it consists of these strange monoliths, these upright stones, just have carvings on them. Some have images on them. There it is. Where's that picture? Where's that picture? There it is. Yeah. Some of them have images on them. You see there's a lizard on there. You see there's a picture of a lizard. And there's pictures of foxes and other creatures like that. And not all of it has been uncovered yet. It's still being excavated. And so there's a lot of work to be done on it. But what's extremely weird about Göbekli Tepe is that the people who built it, once they'd finished building it, they deliberately buried it. They covered it with rubble and dirt and earth. And they buried it for some reason. In fact, it says less than 5% of the site has been excavated so far. So God knows what else we'll find there. I know people are looking into it in great detail. I know Linda Moulton Howe goes there quite regularly. It actually used to be very difficult to reach because there used to be a war going on there. Because it's in Turkish Kurdistan. But I think it's easier to get to now and safer than it used to be. But you get these amazing images on there. You see, there's. Oh, hang on, I've got to show you them, haven't I? Got to show you the images. Where's the page? Where's the page? Here we go. You see, you have like there's this like fox here. It looks like a fox, and then there's those are like birds of some kind. There's I don't know what that is. Is that a tiger or something? And then there's other things there. There's more bird-like images, and there's like a lizard or something. It's really incredible. That looks like a pig. You see, it's like a pig, a wild boar. There's his tusks, and there's that there is looks like a wolf, the head of a wolf, and there's some of them have been placed in museums there. There's a place called the Bodleian. Not the Bodleian. There's the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford, which has a lot of old stuff. Like the Bodleian's a library. I know what I'm talking about, but that has a lot of old stuff in it. But what I was thinking of, is a lot of people theorize this, and there's no way to prove this, but it could be that they are, as Randall said, they were buried because it was buried for a particular purpose. It was buried so that to preserve the stone monuments to keep them as intact as possible for as long as possible, so that future generations would discover them. Which is if they wanted to. Now, this is not a new idea, the idea that we should leave time capsules for future generations. Now, this as long ago as ancient India, say 3,000 plus years ago, scholars were talking about what message can we communicate to people who live in the age of Kali, the age of Kali being like the present day, from roughly the time of Christ to now. What messages can we, what legacy, what cultural informational legacy can we leave for people who have to live through the age of Kali? And indeed, it's possible the creators of Göbekli Tepe had the same idea. And you may think, well, why didn't they write stuff down? I mean, because any culture capable of building something like that probably has a written language. It almost certainly has a written language. But with the invention of written language and the knowledge that came with it, and the knowledge to create monuments like that, would probably at some point you'll come up with the invention of paper. And once you invent paper, unfortunately, you're in a big trouble, because you're tempted to use it all the time, in which case you're writing stuff on things that will never it only takes like one flood and it's all gone, or one fire and you've lost it. The only inscriptions that last that long, the only kind of message you can leave for people, written messages, if you want to create a written message that lasts that long, you have to use a more robust medium, and specifically cut stone carvings. This is why in the stone carvings in ancient Egypt have lasted that long, because they did have paper. They had papyrus, which is a form of paper. It's made from leaves. It's made from a particular leaf. Most of those are gone. They're just gone. But they also wrote things on stone walls, which is why the ancient Egyptian script has been discovered on stone walls and things like that. Now you may think, well, why don't the Göbekli Tepeans simply leave written messages on the stone? Then just say, this is what we want to say. This is what we want to tell you, and here it is. Why don't they just do that? This is very interesting. The answer is very interesting, because they may have realized that we, in the future generations, for them, people in the distant future, who eventually discovered their site and uncovered it, had the ability to discover it, they would not understand these messages, because the language that the Göbekli Tepe spoke would not survive. Now, languages change too much. That's the problem. Languages literally do change too much. If someone took you back 1,000 years into the past, most of the languages in the world are totally different. English, for example, would be incomprehensible to you. Have you ever tried reading Beowulf in its original form? This is like Old English. It needs a translation. Even Middle English, like Chaucer, Geoffrey Chaucer, that needs changing. That also needs translation. Go back 2,000 years, and people were speaking Latin. They were speaking Celtic. They were speaking Gothic. You wouldn't be able to have a conversation with anybody. And English was not spoken. English was not spoken anywhere in Britain. Certainly in the back then, there was like Germanic, Proto-Germanic on the continent, but that was totally different. That went on to form other languages like German and Dutch as well as English. And you would not have been able to have a conversation even there. Go back 10,000 years, and it's literally gobbledygook in both directions. And deciphering ancient scripts is deciphering ancient scripts is incredibly difficult. If you remember, like Ian R. Crane used to talk about Jean-Francois Champollion, who deciphered the Egyptian script because he found the Rosetta Stone, like the bilingual Greek and Egyptian stone. If he hadn't found that, to this day, we might not know what those inscriptions mean. And it took like 50 years to decipher the Mayan script, so we knew about the Mayan calendars and things like that. How long would it take us to decipher a 9,000-year-old script? We still haven't deciphered the Ronga Ronga script of Easter Island, and I did an entire video about that years ago. So that leads us to the point, as Randall was saying, what if we wanted to leave some message for future generations? How would we communicate with people? If we were the Göbekli Tepeans, it's only almost 10,000 years after they buried their monument that we discovered it. What about if we want to leave a message, a time capsule for people in 10,000 years in the future? Now, unfortunately, I don't think anyone has not necessarily the ability, but no one has the temerity or the desire to do that these days, because we're all so focused on everyday life because we've got the Illuminati to cope with. We're all focused on our own lives, and we're all shackled and we're all blinkered and things like that. But there is one thing that we need to, out of necessity, we need to create a way of communicating with people in the very distant future. Nuclear waste repositories. And it's very interesting because, like, the people who are trying to create warnings for nuclear waste are having the same problems, right? Because they have to deter human intrusion at nuclear waste repositories. Not just there's no point just putting up a sign saying danger nuclear waste here, because you're dealing with possibly people thousands of years in the future, 10,000 years or even more. And so you can't just put up a warning saying danger radioactive waste, because thousands of years from now people might not understand this. And you can put up like warning signs, like this is a typical warning sign here. This is a typical radioactive warning sign. You have here the radiation symbol, you have here the skull and crossbones, and you have here a person running away. Now, we understand that. Indeed, the pictographic information you find at places like airports, where in airports there are lots of people who speak different languages, and some of them might not understand every language, the language of the airport. So they have pictographic information. There's a picture for toilets, there's a picture for, a cafeteria, check-in, security, passport control, etc. It's all in pictographic language. Road signs are very often pictographic as well. But this is still culturally specific. Now, this symbol up, the radiation symbol, we understand that, but what in the future people see this radiation symbol and what looks like arrows coming off it beaming down, they may understand this as kind of radiated energy of some sort, but they may interpret this as the sun. And the skull and crossbones we associate with death and danger. But even in the modern world, some cultures associate bones and skulls with life. In New Guinea, the skull is a symbol of the spirit, of the soul. And there's this human figure sort of running, and there's this arrow, but who knows? I mean, this could mean something different. This arrow could mean something very different to people of a different culture from the future. We don't know. We don't know what kind of life they're going to have. We don't know what kind of world they're going to be. And one thing they've done is, like, the Sandia National Laboratories aim to communicate a series of messages, and it created this wording which is like designed for people it's very, very simple. It says here, this place is a message, a part of a system of messages. Pay attention to it. It's all very simple, like you're talking to a kid. Sending this message was important to us. We consider ourselves to be a powerful culture. This is not a place of honor. No highly esteemed deed is commemorated here. Nothing valued is here. What is here is very dangerous and repulsive to us. The message was a warning about that danger. This danger is in this location. It increases towards the center. The danger is still present in your time as it was in ours. The danger is to the body. It can kill. The danger is a form of emanation of energy. The danger is unleashed if you substantially disturb this place physically. It is best left alone and uninhabited. So they're trying to warning people not to settle in areas around this depository, let alone trying to drill into the ground and things like that. And then you get like, and then, but of course, it's possible, not everyone's even going to understand that because it's still linguistic. And they've been putting up, what they've been doing is they've been putting up signs. They put up a sign in. They put up there's a text which is in. It's rather like the Georgia Guidestones. It's on stone plaques, and it is in English, but also in French, Spanish, Chinese, Arabic, Russian, and Navajo. Now, the reason they've chosen Navajo is because that's a widely spoken Amerindian language in the area where a lot of these depositories are. And ironically, it's kind of a compliment to the native peoples of the Americas. But if there was some kind of massive civilizational collapse, it's quite likely that the Amerindian communities will cope with it better than we city dwellers, because they're used to the hunter-gatherer lifestyle. So it's possible that in the distant future in North America that Navajo, ironically, might last longer as a spoken language than English and Spanish in that continent. So it's written in Navajo as well. And it just says I'll give you an example of the kind of things that are written here. And you just get this kind of sign here. There we are. Danger, poisonous radioactive waste here. Do not dig or drill. And it has these radiation symbols. And of course, what you do have here is a possible non-linguistic communication. You have a frightened face and a face that looks like it's in pain. Now, these facial expressions, people will understand. Even in the distant future, people will understand these facial expressions, which will give you an idea. These are designed to warn for the far future descendants. And there's this as well. This is like a little kid thing here. This is like something a little kid would draw. But look, there's a little stick figure here, and there's the repository underground. And there's a picture of him digging a hole. He's got like a tool, like a spade, digging a hole. And there's like a drilling derrick, and they're drilling down here. And then as he gets to the bottom, you see like these symbols. Again, these people might not know what these symbols are. I mean, obviously radiation symbols, but then the stick figure looks very frightened, and you see radiation coming up from the hole, from the ground in the repository, and flying up through the hole. And it's in the air, and then he's lying dead. And people will think, well, they'll understand that in 10,000 years' time. People will understand that. They might do. They certainly understand the facial expressions and the man lying down. Hopefully, that'll be enough to deter them. And then some of it's more abstract. They think they should cover the area above the depository with these sculptures. Now, these sculptures they look like trees, but they're there's lots of spikes, and it's like big spiky thorny trees everywhere. And what this implies, I mean, this would probably deter a lot of people. Even non-human animals would probably understand this, like horses and other and cattle, and they'd understand that this implies danger. The implication is there's something dangerous in this area, and you should keep out. And that's I thought was very interesting. That's the kind of thing I thought was that is very like Göbekli Tepe. That's the kind of Göbekli Tepe like thing to do, and that's what we're doing right now. But it's a pity we can't. It's a pity no one, because probably because we have the Illuminati, we are under Illuminati rule, and hopefully that's coming to an end soon, and things might change soon. But no one is thinking about how we leave a cultural legacy for ourselves for the future. No one is sort of thinking, what can we leave anything positive for future generations? Unfortunately, no one. It doesn't seem to occur to many people. I mean, it may have occurred to a few people, but motivating it on a civilizational level seems to be impossible compared to that. Just warning it we can warn people in the future about the toxic shit we leave behind, but we can't leave anything positive for them, not at the moment anyway. And that's sad, but that's just the way things are. And lastly, I just want to just repeat to do with Meadows, the thing to do with Meadows. This was a problem that occurred the moment that I uploaded it. And I actually mentioned this, I think, in my previous video about videos being banned. But I literally just uploaded it, and someone wrote to me and says, "Ben, I can't see your video. It's gone." And I thought, "What's happened now?" And I went straight to, of course, to Google Gmail, which I always dread it whenever I open Gmail. And I got the usual bitchy message here. "Hi, Ben the JR Porter. A copyright owner using Content ID has claimed some material in your video. As a result, your video has been blocked in some countries. This means that your video is still up on YouTube, but people in some countries may not be able to watch it. This is not a copyright strike. The claim does not affect your account status. Video title Meadows Part 1 of 2, copyrighted content, Conspiracy Road Trip, Series 1, Episode 3, claimed by Warner Brothers International." Oh my God, they run that now. "Blocked in Guernsey, Ireland, Isle of Man, Jersey, United Kingdom." Right, so it's blocked across the entire British Isles. I mistakenly said in my last video it was blocked in all territories. It wasn't. It was only in those territories. But that's where probably about 3/4 of my viewers are. So that's pretty annoying. And it says here, "The video might contain the copyright owners have blocked your YouTube video. You don't need to take any action. If you can, it says if you're confident you have all the rights, you can dispute it. You can go through a disputing process, in other words, appeal, which could take up to 2 weeks, as you know, or you can remove the claim content using Studio's editing tools, which is what I chose to do. As a result, the YouTube version of Meadows Part 1 is 3 hours, 13 minutes, and 30 seconds long. The version on Alt Tech, and I recommend you go and watch it there, is 3 hours, 26 minutes long. So there's all that extra material on there which is actually cut out of the original. And I suppose it's kind of a bit annoying, but you can actually go to YouTube, and it's actually there. It's originally broadcast on the BBC, created by a company called Off the Fence, which is actually a rather silly name because they're actually nothing of the sort. But as I can show you here, if you if you scroll down, you can see that at least 2 of these episodes are on there. The 7/7 bombings, that version is on there, and then there's the UFO ones. That's the one that they stung me for on copyright. "Do you believe in aliens?" And it's got a different title. It's also got some different theme music on it, but it's basically the same. It's the same program. I don't know about the 9/11 one. We can see if that is on there too. I'm not going to show it to you. "The Truth About 9/11." Yeah, this is the 9/11 version. The one I showed old Charlie Veach in. There you can see here's some clips here. There's Charlie Veach. He's actually in the title shot, old Charlie. Which is again, I mean, I think that's a terrible mistake he made there doing that. But there you go. I'm not going to go into that now. I was actually asked by the company who produced those videos to take part in that series myself. I declined. So it's already on YouTube. I mean, I suppose probably the reason that is on YouTube and they stung me for copyright probably is because that is a licensed upload. It's a licensed upload, and that's why. Because that's probably the only one on there, because it's an official upload, and that probably explains it. I just think it was a bit of a, like a lot of copyright issues on YouTube, including copyright complaints, copyright strikes. 95% plus probably of all of them are of copyright infringements that are either non-existent or they're so petty as to be inconsequential. In my case, I think that I was entitled under fair use to show those few scenes from that film, and it's only like about 10. It's only about the equivalent of about 10 minutes of it in various scenes. I think through fair use, I was entitled to use that, and but there you go. Never mind. And last of all, you'll be glad to know that I think I've mentioned this before, but I did manage to get my luggage back from Oxford Bus Company. If you remember, what happened was when I got to the airport on my way to the Stairway to the Stars, I walked off from the coach in the coach station and left one of my bags, which had been put into the luggage compartment on the coach. I left it there. and I had to go to Las Vegas without it. Now, luckily, I mean, I wouldn't be so silly as to put anything essential in that bag. You know, my passports and other essential stuff was not in that bag. I wouldn't be silly enough to do that. But I had a change of clothes. I also had some copies of the Roswell books, which I was going to flog in the toilet secretly to people, like cocaine, because I didn't have a stall there, you know. But I did get it back. When I arrived back in Oxford, I got back like about sort of in the evening. I went to bed and slept off the jet lag, and then the next day I contacted the company. It was in their lost property. It was at their lost property office, and I went and picked it up. So that, I think, plugs all the holes that that were made in the original film Meadows, and so I'm quite glad to get that done. Anyway, do go check out Meadows. I'll put a link in the description box to the original if you haven't seen it. Please do go and watch it. I'm very fond of it. Had a great time, fantastic time. I will tell you right now that I'm not going to give anything away, but I am hoping to return to the United States this year to another event. I'll tell you more closer to the time. The reason being is that, like I said, I don't want to put this off anymore. I can't put this off anymore. So, time and money allowing, which I think it will allow, from what I've seen, from what I've worked out so far, I will be returning in a few months to a different part of the United States for a different event. Anyway, there's lots more coming, guys. I'm going to do a couple more videos, and then probably next week there'll be a comments reply video. I'm going to cover the whole Doomsday Bunker thing as well, because, you know, after watching Leave the World Behind, I think that needs to be talked about in detail in case the Black Swan event occurs. So look out for that. It's coming soon. Thank you, all of you, for watching Hapanwo TV. Hospital Porters, pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order.